On a scorching morning in Tanzania's Serengeti National Park, Ranger Akim Gweni set out on his daily patrol. His mission, to protect the wildlife from poachers who threaten the animals of this vast reserve. The dusty trail led him through the golden savanna, where tall grass swayed in the hot wind and the shadows of predators and their pursuers flickered in the distance. As Akim drove through a sparse grove of acacia trees, he heard a faint, hoarse sound coming from far away. He turned off the engine of his old Jeep, straining his ears. The sound was not a menacing roar, but more of a desperate moan. Akim's heart began to beat faster. He knew that in these places poachers left traces of cruelty in their wake. He carefully got out of the car, clutching a strong stick in his hands, and moved towards the sound, carefully examining the dry ground for tracks. A few minutes later, Akim froze. In the shade of an old acacia, he noticed the silhouette of a large animal. An emaciated lioness appeared before him. Her once shiny fur was dull and matted. Her eyes were sunken, and her body had turned into a skin-covered skeleton. A rusty chain was tightly wrapped around her neck. The other end was tied to a tree trunk. Nearby stood a dented metal bowl with muddy water, from which a sharp smell emanated. The lioness had obviously been left to die under the scorching sun. Akim sighed heavily, realizing that the poachers abandoned her to her fate. Judging by her condition, she had been in this position for at least a week. The wounds on her neck were inflamed, the skin around the chain was peeling, and her fur was falling out in clumps. The lioness weakly twitched, trying to free herself, but her strength quickly ran out, and she collapsed to the ground, letting out a weak roar. Akim kept his distance, carefully observing her behavior. He knew that even a weakened animal could be dangerous. The air was heavy, only the rustling of the wind and the hoarse breathing of the lioness broke the silence. Akim took a cautious step forward, lowering his stick so as not to provoke her. The lioness looked at him, her gaze changed from wary to tired. She lowered her head, as if surrendering. Seeing that the moment was right, Akim slowly approached. He crouched down next to her, and carefully touched the chain, feeling the cold, rusty metal. The lioness let out a weak roar, but there was no longer a threat in her eyes, only hopelessness. "Calm down, I will help you," Akim whispered quietly, trying to calm the animal. His voice and confident movements made the lioness freeze. She looked at him, as if understanding that he was not an enemy. With the dexterity developed over years of work, Akim began to unravel the chain. Each turn left deep crimson marks on the lioness's neck. When the chain finally fell to the ground with a dull clang, the lioness recoiled slightly, but instead of attacking, she raised her head and looked at Akim. A spark of gratitude flashed in her eyes. He did not come closer, but extended his hand, showing that he was not a threat. Akim quickly opened the cage in the back of his Jeep and gently knocked on it, inviting the lioness to climb inside. After a brief hesitation, she wobbled into the cage. Her movements were slow but determined. Akim closed the door, wiped the sweat from his forehead and started the car. The walk to the ranger station seemed endless, and the lioness's heavy breathing echoed in his ears. Akim's colleagues at the station immediately rushed to help. They carried the cage to the veterinary bay, where the lioness was given a sedative to ease her suffering and examined. When she fell asleep, Akim finally breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that the first stage of the rescue was complete. The veterinarians confirmed that the lioness had not eaten for more than 8 days, her body was emaciated, and the wounds on her neck required urgent treatment. They started giving her nutritional solutions, vitamins and antibiotics to restore her strength. Akim stayed nearby, watching the lioness through the glass door of the veterinary block. He felt responsible for her fate, as if an invisible thread connected them. The first night was difficult. The lioness was breathing weakly, and the doctors were afraid that she would not survive. But the next morning, her heartbeat became stronger and her breathing became more even. Her eyes remained closed, but hope began to glimmer in the hearts of the team. 2 days later, the lioness opened her eyes for the first time. Her gaze was cloudy, but life was already visible in it. She slowly raised her head, looked around the room and lay down again, too weak to move. The veterinarians prepared a soft nutritional mixture, which Akim patiently fed her spoon by spoon. When he saw her take her first sips, he smiled. This was the first step to recovery. Akim took care of the lioness. Every day, he cleaned her wounds, washed her sores and talked to her, so that she felt safe. Gradually, her gaze became softer, and her fear went away. After a week, she was able to stand up and take a few steps around the cage. Her body was still weak, but with each passing day, she gained strength. A month later, the lioness was transferred to a spacious enclosure in the Serengeti, where she began to relearn how to hunt and live in the wild. At the same time, the Tanzanian police, working with rangers, uncovered a network of poachers responsible for her suffering. The criminals were arrested and severely punished. The day came when they decided to release the lioness into the wild. Akim and his colleagues took her to the heart of the Serengeti. When he opened the cage door, the lioness slowly walked out, her fur glistening in the sun. She turned around, looked at Akam with a long look, as if saying goodbye, and stepped into the savanna. Akam nodded, his heart filled with pride and warmth. The lioness returned to where she belonged, in the wild, free and alive. Friends, thank you for taking the time to read this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you in the next stories about wildlife.